Қайырлы таң, құрметті әріптестер, қош келдіңіздер бүгінгі семинар оқушыларымызға. Іс-шарамыздың 3-ші күні жалғасуда. Бүгінгі негізгі бағыт эксперттер, шетелдік эксперттер өздерінің тақырыптарымен бөлісіп, соны бір терең және жан-жақты бір талқылау, сол тақырыпты бір жұлмалап, жан-жақты сұрақпен талқылап, жаңағыдай тұжырымдау деп айтсақ болады. Сондықтан бүгінгі шараға барынша белсенді қатысып, сұрақ қойып, осы инклюзия мен жасанды интеллекттің тоғысындағы мәселелердің соның төңірегінде туындайтын түрбі тақырыптар, проблемалар, сұрақтарды жан-жақты талқылау болып табылады. Сондықтан баршаларыңызды бір белсенді қатысуға шақырамыз. Сіздерден үлкен бір өтініш, жаңағыдай белсенді тыңдап, белсенді қатысып отырсаңыздар. Welcome, dear guests, for today's seminar workshop. This is our third day of our project within a SARES Institute grant, and we welcome everyone and we encourage everyone to participate actively. So we have experts today. They are going to share their speeches, their thoughts regarding our topic, harnessing AI and inclusive education. So our first speaker is Professor Anna Skledar, and she will share the concept of inclusion. So today's session kind of conceptualization and the discussing the philosophy behind the inclusion and talking about the infrastructure, how we're going to build that system, to help students to learn better, with special needs to learn better. Okay, join me to welcome Professor Anna Skledar. Please, Professor.
Құрметті әріптестер, кешіресіздер, профессор өзінің жұмысын бастамас тұрын кішкене бір мәліметті айтып өтсем деп жатырмын. Бүгін білесіздер, бұл халықаралық гранттық жоба аясында өткізіліп жатқан іс-шара, үлкен көлемді. Бұл іс-шараға бітті. Мынау жасанды жасанды интеллект, инклюзивті білім беру бағытында жұмыс жасап жатқан докторанттарды, сонымен қатар профессор оқытушылар құрамын шақырған болатынбыз. Бүгінгі аудитория тек ағылшын тілінде жүргізіледі, осыны ескертіп айтқым келеді. Егер жаңағыдай тіл жағынан түсініксіз болып, қызығушылық танытпайтын болсаңыздар, бұл жерде кішкене аудиторияда уақыттарыңызды босқа жоғалтпауларыңызды сұраймын. Өйткені профессорлармен бірге бүгін воркшоп семинарымыз өте белсенді түрде өтілу керек. Мына докторанттардың өздерінің көкейінде жүрген сұрақтарды қойып, бұл кісілерден еркін форматта білім, тәжірибе алмасуларыңыз қажет. Сондықтан да кішкене сіздерден өтініш, келгеннен кейін белсенді болып, сабырлық танытып, өздеріңіздің білім деңгейлеріңізді жоғары деңгейде шетелдік ғалымдарға көрсетсеңіздер деп сұранамыз. Рахмет.
Okay, Professor. Yeah.
I can't share my presentation.
Yeah.
Is it already shared?
Уже больше презентация что например могу снять. Способ. Yeah. He has already shared. So can you click this one? No, just. Yes.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So good morning. My name is, can you hear me? Yeah? My name is Ana Matijevich. I come from Croatia, the Institute for the Development of Education. We are closer. Yeah, okay. I'll try to speak closer. Okay. So we are an NGO. What we do is operate as a think tank, and we are focused on okay, now it's here. What we focus on are educational policies, primarily in higher education, where we focus on equity and inclusion within the framework of the European higher education area. We focus on community engagement in higher education, and we focus on quality assurance in higher education. We primarily work through projects, but also provide consultancy services to educational authorities worldwide and to higher education institutions. So I'm really happy to be here, and I'm happy to be able to share what we do and to talk to you about equity and inclusion. So my presentation will be focused on some key terms, and I hope that it can be more interactive. So that we can set the scene for what my colleagues who are specialists in AI will share later. So my background is in higher education. For 20 years, I was a teacher. Then I was also in higher education management. I was assistant dean, vice dean, and then dean of a small private university in Croatia, around 5,000 students. Since 2019, I've been working with the Institute for the Development of Education, where I work mostly on project and consultancy, focusing on the equity and inclusion that I mentioned earlier. So let me first ask you a few questions. I'll just skip a few slides because I don't think they're relevant at this point. I might go back to them. Okay, here are some key terms that appear when we talk about equity and inclusion. We have diversity, equity, inclusion, social dimension. So when I say diversity, what is the first association that you have? What do you? Yes, okay. Okay, okay. Any other thoughts? No, okay. How about? Okay, also, yes. So as well, yes. So what I'm hearing is different, various, yeah? Okay, good. How about equity? Equal approach, okay. Equal opportunities, okay. Oh, okay, okay, okay. And then what is inclusion? What do you? Okay. Okay, so can we hear each other? So is the microphone necessary? Okay. What about the social dimension? Does this ring a bell? It's probably a term that you haven't heard very often because it's very specific. No? Okay, so what I heard from you are some very important elements, different, like a variety, many different kinds of students. Then I heard equal approach, equal opportunities, creating an equal, so including into one lesson, many different elements. Okay, so I will go back a few slides to give you background to what I'll be talking about. So excuse me for jumping. So this is the European higher education area. The term, the social dimension, is connected to the European higher education area. So why is this relevant for Kazakhstan? Well, Kazakhstan has been a member of the IHEA since 2010. So for 15 years, Kazakhstan has been a full member of this intergovernmental organization that focuses on higher education. And Kazakhstan has been looking at the best practices. So basically, what I get from Kazakhstan is that you are looking at the best practices from the West and from the East, and trying to integrate them into your own educational system. And I think this is a great approach. So this is why it is relevant. The IHEA has 47 states, Kazakhstan being one of them. And within the IHEA, there is a process called the Bologna process. I'm sure you are familiar with this. And within the Bologna process, there are many working groups. One working group was dedicated to the social dimension. And my institute, my colleague, has been co-chair of this working group for 8 years. And this is how long we've been working, actually even longer, on what is called the social dimension. So all the terms that we try to define are basically part of the social dimension. So I will go through all the key concepts and give you the definitions and explanations. So to set the scene for what we are going to talk about later, and it is AI. So the first thing I ask you what you understand when I say diversity. Diversity is a fact. Diversity reflects that learners are different, that there are variations in the student population. And this is what I heard from you, saying different, there are characteristics that actually make the student body diverse. And these characteristics are race, ethnicity, age, gender, sexual orientation, language, culture, religion, mental and physical ability, socioeconomic status, class, immigration status, and so on. So all the characteristics that the students have no influence over. So if you are from a certain ethnicity, this is your characteristics, but this is not something that you choose to be, or something that you have influence over. Or if you have a physical disability, this is not something you chose to have, like if you choose to have your hair short or long. This is not something that the students can influence, okay? And this is a fact. The student body is diverse. This is how it is. So these differences should be acknowledged, and they should be actually viewed as opportunity to enrich the experience. Then we have equity. Equity is a principle. So, okay, thank you. I don't like that, but still, okay. So equity is a principle. So diversity is a fact, but equity is a principle based on fairness. It has to do with social justice, and it means that all students should be treated as equally important, not as equal, because we said they are diverse. They're not equal, but they're equally important. So achieving equity goes beyond offering the same rights to everyone. It requires targeted measures tailored to the specific needs. So equity basically means that we should view each student as an individual and introduce measures that will enable them to actually reach their full potential based on their abilities. And equality of treatment is not the same as equity. So equality means you give equal treatment to everyone, but not everyone requires equal treatment. Everyone requires a treatment tailored to their needs that are specific. Okay, and then we have inclusion. That's a process. So while equity is a guiding principle, inclusion is the process through which equity is being implemented. It's about removing barriers. All students should be able to access, to participate, and complete higher education based on their abilities. And it is the task of the higher education institution and of the higher education system to remove barriers, to introduce measures that will enable every student to reach their full potential. And when we talk about inclusion, we actually accept that the student body is diverse, and we want to implement equity. And then there is the term that you were not familiar with. It was the social dimension. Sorry. Let's take a look at this picture. So if we talk about diversity, you see that students are different. Then there's the equality of opportunities, which helps a little, but doesn't really do the job fully because not everybody has the same starting position. This is why we talk about equity. You see the kids standing there. The one that is tall doesn't need any support. The one that is shorter needs like one box, and the other one needs two boxes. So we're all different, and we need support in different ways and in different quantities. So inclusion is basically removing barriers. And if we talk about the social dimension, this is all of it. This is the term that is used in the European higher education area. That would be the social dimension, but also equity and diversity, equity and inclusion are other terms that you will be able to find in mostly European literature. Okay, so we've clarified the basic terms. So we can go on to the definition of the social dimension in the IHEA, and it says that it is a process aimed at creating an inclusive environment in higher education in which the composition of the student body entering, participating in, and completing higher education at all levels corresponds to the heterogeneous social profile of society at large in the IHEA countries. So it's about inclusive treatment, which fosters diversity, equity, and is also responsive to the needs of the local communities. This means that it is very context specific. Equity, or actually diversity, does not mean the same thing in different places. So if we talk about diversity in Kazakhstan and diversity in Croatia, they're different things because the local contexts are different. If we zoom in on a specific country, diversity might not mean the same thing in this region, in South Kazakhstan and in Astana. So the local context and the local community is actually very important. So this has to be taken into account because there is not just one size fits all. It's about really understanding the local context and introducing measures at the higher education institution level that will correspond to the needs of the exact of the current student body. Okay, so are there any questions at this point? Any comments? Yeah. Okay, I'll go on a bit. So this conference, this seminar is dedicated to AI in sort of AI being used to support equity and inclusion. I'm not an expert in AI. This is why my colleagues are here. So I would just set the scene by saying that there are some principles of the social dimension. Sorry. There are dimensions of equity and inclusion that refer to certain points during the higher education process. So the first one is access. The second one is well-being, and the third one is achievement. So access is the beginning of the higher education journey. So the social dimension or equity and inclusion has a specific place here where access to everybody should be secured. So there should be measures in place that are aimed at removing barriers for individuals to access educational institutions and programs. The second one refers to the period of study. So while the student is at university, there should be measures in place that actually ensure that they have an optimal experience and that their well-being is secured through a number of measures that are being implemented at the higher education institution. And the third one is achievement. This refers to reducing or preventing dropout and to encouraging successful completion of higher education. There are factors that influence dropout that can be targeted and removed before they cause dropout. This is, if we talk about Croatia, this is a huge problem in Croatia. We have a huge dropout rate at college level, while we have a very high, among the highest, probably the highest high school completion rate in the European Union. So almost everybody completes high school and then they go on to college, and then very many students drop out, and this is something that needs to be addressed. But there are factors that can be influenced on time before the idea of dropping out even crosses the student's mind. Okay. And then there is the term students with fewer opportunities. So the students can be underrepresented, disadvantaged, or vulnerable. And when we talk about these three groups, the term students with fewer opportunities is the term that we use. So what does it mean to be underrepresented? This means that there are groups of students who share among in the student body is lower than the share of the comparable group in the total population. For example, if there is a certain percentage of students with physical disability in the total of people with physical disability in the total population, an equal percentage of students with physical disabilities should be present in the student body. This means that they're represented. If there is a lower number, this means that they're underrepresented. Disadvantaged students are those who are facing specific challenges compared to other students that are a result of some factors that they cannot influence, such as disability or low socioeconomic status or lack of family support, or actually any kind of factor that does not, that is beyond their control. Okay. Vulnerable students are those who need support. So students who have a disadvantage do not necessarily need special support, but students with students who who are vulnerable need special support, and there should be measures in place that will encourage them. So when we talk about them, they're all students with fewer opportunities. So where does AI fit in with all of this? So let me skip through many slides. I'll just go to the last one. So there are 10 principles in the IKEA that focus on the social dimension that actually say what the authorities, educational authorities should do, what kind of measures they should implement to make sure that the social dimension is in place, that it is respected, that there is equity and inclusion in the higher education system. AI can be used to support some of these principles, and I've singled out 4 principles here where I see that it can be really beneficial to use AI to support the implementation of these principles on system level or on individual level. So principle on the inclusiveness of the entire educational system means that different levels of education should communicate. This means that data should be collected on system level from early childhood education and care through higher education. This is not happening in practice, and AI can be very useful here. And Eunice is going to give you an example of how it can be done. So how to collect and analyze data on the system level. Then there is a principle on monitoring and data collection. This is on the individual level. So each student can be tracked, and the learning analytics of a particular student can be tracked from the entry until exit to detect to try to find out where there are actually where there is a danger that the student might be excluded or might drop out. Then principle on counseling and guidance. Actually, you can use AI to when you have the red flags, you have all this data and AI gives you red flags. Oh, this is where the student is in danger. AI can help with providing support on individual level, like having a chatbot that will provide guidance and give advice to students. So these students are student-centered and they should be institutional. And then principle on inclusive institutional culture, which is focused on the professional development of the teachers, where actually we can use AI for adapting teaching materials to provide support to the teachers and to the students on an individual level. So this is also student-centered, but it is teacher-led. So this is where I will stop and actually just ask 2 questions, which I hope my colleagues will answer. So how can this be done in practice? And what are the ethical concerns of using AI in teaching? Because this is a very important issue to discuss. So my colleagues are going to talk about that. Thank you for now.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Should we have some questions? I mean, can we ask some questions if any in the audience? Do you have questions?
Thank you very much, Professor Anna, for your interesting presentation. I think this topic is very popular also in our country because a lot of people in our country, when we say inclusion, they think only about this is about disability of person. But I think the inclusion is broader than the also only disability of person. So in this case, your presentation, thank you very much for detailed definition of the inclusion. And these 2 questions you asked at the last, I think it's deal all of the sphere of the science. There is a PhD doctors of our university in different spheres, inclusion, chemistry, language, and etc. And I think this 2 question is very actual for everyone, how we can use AI in ethics in our works and how we can integrate AI in our education. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Professor Anna, can I have a question? So you discussed about definitions of surrounding inclusion. So and I think it stems from cultural background who gives that definition. Is it possible? I think we have global South, global North, we have Western culture, we have Oriental culture. Is it possible to come up with to a shared understanding? Is it possible to come, to have agreed definition on that? Surrounding your topic that you have discussed.
Well, the definition that I shared of the social dimension has been agreed upon by the 47 countries of the European higher education area. So it has been agreed upon after a very long process. It took years for 47 countries to agree on the ministerial level. So it is possible, but it has to be very broad and flexible. And this is why I emphasize inclusion and diversity do not mean the same thing in Kazakhstan and in Croatia and in some other country, because the local circumstances are different. The student body composition is different. The tradition is different. The history is different. The educational system is different. So basically there is this one definition, but it should be adapted to the local context.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
My name is Asim. I am from English department. I want to ask you, can artificial intelligence replace human support in inclusive education?
I doubt that it can replace human support, but it can help. It can help. I mentioned data it is really important to analyze data. AI can really help to automate and to speed up the analysis of data. So instead of going through the classic approach of researching through surveys and interviews and focus groups and so on, and then analyzing this data and coming to some conclusions, AI can really help speed this process up, and you get the results and you get the conclusions immediately, and not after a period of 3 months or 6 months or a year when they're already outdated.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So we have another speaker, and Professor Diana. Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay, so first of all, let me see. Do you see the presentation? I'm sharing it in Zoom, so if you show the Zoom. No. So it's in Zoom. If you put the Zoom, I see it in Zoom. And everybody else who is in Zoom sees. If you go to the Zoom meeting. Okay, perfect. So now we are doing it from here. Okay, so how many of you have been? No, I don't need that. How many of you have been yesterday here? Okay. So quite a few. Then I will not, I will go a bit faster. I just wanted first to introduce myself as also my colleague. So I'm Diana Andone, and I'm coming from Technical University in Romania, which is right here. My university is located in. Okay, so now it's coming. It's a bit of delay. I apologize for that. I will try to go a bit ahead of what I'm saying. And also my university is quite an old one, as also this one, but we are more or less a technical university. So for any of those which are teaching sciences or informatics, that's what we are more or less developing and also teaching. In Romania, the education system is a bit different, especially when you need to teach also at high schools and so on. You need to be a specialist in the subject. So you need to study in the university biology, for example. And then you have 1 year of pedagogical training or something like that, and then you can go teaching. So it's a tiny bit different. We also have a degree on pedagogical, but that's only for kindergarten and primary school. So it's not for when you do specialized topics. We do all levels of education, and one thing which we started discussing with your university yesterday was also to try to have some exchange on PhD students and so on, especially for those which are much more keen on science or on digital education. You will be able to find on this link a lot of resources about AI. There are around 40 documents and presentations which I used over the years, which I'm happy to share, so you can use it and so on, because quite a lot of information you can find there. And I will try to speak a bit about ethics. What I have here, they are Romanian chocolates, okay? Very good. And if you are active, you get chocolates, and somebody will help me. So this is for you, and I have another box, so don't worry. I have plenty, so you can be very active. Okay, so one of the most cited benefits of generative AI is usually the automative of repetitive tasks, which comes with a lot of benefits. And sometimes I'm very surprised how many of us and of people are really doing a lot of things with AI. And then it's usually we have fewer human errors. We kept discussing yesterday also with Younes that how much you can use it, for example, sometimes for assessment and evaluation, if you have a very good rubrics, and where I have a bit of issue again, because if a human has produced an assessment or if a student has done something, then it's your duty as a teacher to evaluate it by yourself, more or less, and not by a machine, but it can help you at least to indicate where are the problems and so on. But one of the biggest challenges is outside of how the data risks and the data sets and from where they're coming, and how we all know that at least the commercial units and the LLMs, I mean the systems which are behind the large generative AI applications use data sets which are coming from the Anglo-Saxon world. So basically is English-speaking world. And it's just recently they have been improved with a lot of other examples and so on. But one of the major things is the privacy and the legal risks. And there are some things to worry about. And one of the major things which we are all worrying about is the hallucination. I don't know if you're familiar with this, probably you are a tiny bit, because quite a lot of the generative AI, the vast majority of them are using data sets based on words. So they put together words and they assimilate them based on how they've been used in natural language, that or in existing text and data and information and so on. They hallucinate a lot because they make up things. Don't really understand all the time. Some of them start understanding some bits, but they don't really understand the meaning of the things, especially if the text is written in a more elaborate academic or more poetic way or something like that. So that's one of the things. Hugging Face, which is also promoting quite a lot of the open culture in AI, is because they have a lot of repository on open LLMs and how to support open education also with those, have building up this for a while. So you can always have a look which is the highest hallucinated rate of some. This image has been quite popular about 1.5 years ago. Probably you've seen it, no? Okay, so tell me, is it real or not? And you have chocolates here. It isn't. It is AI. Why you know it is AI? Yes, they look quite similar, correct. Other things. Hmm? They're happy. Yes, they're smiling, correct. What else? Sorry? Yeah, because they are more or less Aztec warriors or Spanish conquistadors. If you ever seen any old paintings, more or less, because photo was not a possibility during that time, and even movies which are trying to depict those periods, so where we will have real-time photos, because those will be actors, more or less, they will never be represented as a selfie. Okay, so because the selfie culture is something which exists in the last 15 years maximum, even less. I think if I'm correct, it's about 13 years since the selfie culture has become something as a norm. And it's another very major thing. Neither the Spanish conquistadors, neither the Aztecs, and neither us, more or less, will not smile that much. This is called the American smile. I'm so sorry for all of the others. I don't consider yourself an American, so you are safe. Yeah, because they smile in anything, even in their passport photos, they will smile, which we are not allowed to. I'm pretty sure it's the same with you. In Europe, you are not smiling in your passport photo. I mean, you need to be very serious and have the eyes open and not to change your physiognomy. Why? Because it's much more easy to be recognized and your features are not how to say, smashed with the muscles. So this is one of the biggest examples. Do you know how many people have shared this as a reality thing? Because the initial photos was sent as it was coming a new discovery from the largest Washington Museum, Smithsonian one. And because just that text was added, I have no idea, in fact, to be honest, from where it originated. It started as a social experiment at the end. More than 85% of the people which shared this 1 year ago, more than a year ago now, believe it. They share it and said, oh, look, without even thinking that it can be AI made. So this is one of the problems which we have, because it lies well, but if you look and think as a human, you recognize it's fake. Believe it or not, even machines recognize this is fake, but not humans sometimes, which raises a huge question on how we are really trying to build up our critical thinking, especially in our students and so on. It facilitates impersonation. So this is the same person image duplicated with AI. So the author of this image used his own image, his own face, and he just duplicated with several features. And then obviously it proliferates. So it's multiplying it at astronomical rate, anything which is biased. And if a biased information exists in the training data, then this one is really going further away and having quite a lot. So this is why we have so much of the hate speech and disinformation and false statements which are shared sometimes even by nations or for political reason in the same country, one party or one organization or some humans can really start sharing misinformation without being making it so credible that it's really becoming something which is becoming the truth. Sometimes I discover after years images and things which are reshared on social media, even that exist press release and press things that this is fake, and they are still shared months or a year later, just because this is how people works. Another huge bias on AI is how they imagine people. This is something which has been done more than a year ago. Midjourney is one of the AI images tools. And for example, we ask 3 secretaries without saying the gender, and then 3 surgeons. And in all of them, they were biased. They've been taught after that, and this is what I'm doing quite a lot. And this is another thing which I'm not having in this presentation anything about the artificial data which is created and what we call is synthetic data. So the data which is created by the results of your prompts, and if you don't give a feedback and you don't say what is wrong and right, the machines automatically assumes that that's correct. So try to correct it as much as possible. So after several interventions, I've tried to correct it. And I ask also my students, for example, with this ones to correct it. I don't know if I have it now here. No, I don't, because I cut quite a lot of the slides. About half a year later, the image was correct. So they were depicting more humans, even different colors of the skin and so on. So if you teach it, it learns, but this is becoming quite a lot of the problems. And these models, sometimes something which you don't even realize it existing. So one of the biggest biases in generative AI, as I said, is accuracy and biases and hallucination and plagiarism. The things which us in the academic and research world were much more afraid of is the plagiarism. It's taken people work without acknowledgement, without mentioning the sources. So some of the tools, quite a lot of them recently, which you can use for academic or research purposes, are started doing the validation and the recognition of the source of the initial source. So you will have a link to it from where that it's coming. And in our opinion, this is the way forward. This is what all the LLMs should do. not only give you an answer to something, but indicate from where that information is coming. If possible, even with multiple links. None of this is new, and what they are very, very new is that they sound more believable, especially in the last half a year with when ChatGPT has moved from 4.5 and to 5, because that's the most used tool at this moment by anybody more or less in the world. They started believing it more. So you believe it more than you are thinking. So it's becoming really very realist. The European Union have built up, this is called the European Digital Education Hub, where you can join. It's open to anybody also outside EU. And it's a huge community which is promoting digital education. Is any of you part of it or not? No? If you are doing digital education or doing anything which is related with that, I will strongly encourage you to go and join it. I will make it possible. I will share the direct link to that. And they have squads and community and huge number of resources. I mean, thousands of documents and information about education, more or less, because they are built up to support professors and teachers on working with technology, not only with AI. And the AI squad, which I'm doing for more than 2.5 years now, we are looking now, for example, even to the next generation. We produce 4 major documents. One is about the ethics, the other one is about explainable AI and so on. Then you can find them and download them now from the website also. But what we've been looking is these areas of the ethical consideration. Basically, these are the major problems which influence a lot, obviously, the inclusion and the social dimension is the unethical data usage. So you don't know from where it's coming. A lot of intellectual property theft is some people knowledge, which the AI uses, and not acknowledgement. And because of that, also humans are using it without acknowledgement because they sometimes not with because they don't know where it's coming. So not malevolent is because they really don't know from where it's coming. So that's one of the biggest problem, and that the lack of informed consent. So you, not only artists, but even you as a researcher, as a future researcher or as a researcher now, you might produce things and papers which at the end of the day might be used by AI and by somebody else without you even knowing, because it might be very difficult to use it. And it's one of the biggest issues. Obviously, plagiarism and cheating. Students do this without acknowledgement. A lot of the EU universities and also some of in America and so on are allowing the use of AI, are even teaching, because you cannot go to the Middle Age or in a cave and tell the students don't use it. That's a big mistake because they will use it anyway. So what we are doing is we are trying to teach the students how to use it correctly and have regulations also in the university on how to be transparent about the use of it. And that's one thing which you really need to do. There are a lot of studies which shows the erosion of the critical skills and how difficult that it is, and of the superficial learning. Nowadays, just last week, Gartner, which is a huge company which is doing analytics on the politics and economics, have released a study done on American graduates from last year, which a lot of them were unemployed 6 months after they've been employed. And the reason was that even on paper, their grades were good and they showed that they know things. When they started working, they know only at a very superficial level. They didn't understand the things behind that. They couldn't go in depth because a lot of their activities have been done with AI, or they rely so much on using AI at work that they don't understand the meaning between different things, and then they make mistakes further on. And this is becoming a huge problem, especially in the engineering world from where I'm coming, where imagine that you will have a constructor which will build up a building, and all the calculation, because that's something which can be automated, will be done by AI. But you will not have the brain and the knowledge and the understanding as a human to check if that's correct or if it is quality sound. And then you go and building it up, and then it doesn't stand, or it doesn't stand at an earthquake. Or you will build up a machine or a plane which will not be able to take off, or things like that. And this is things which really worries us, at least in the engineering world. And then is the medical sciences and so on, where the use of AI is huge. So all of this, we need to teach our students on how to do it. I will just go, and this is one thing which I added because of last evening discussion, colleagues, something about the environmental impact of generative AI. Okay, so there are a lot of negative impacts, and what I strongly ask you not to do, and this is valid for everybody more or less, is try not to use for simple searches or for simple questions AI. Still use old search engines, maps, or whatever else. Don't go to ask any silly question on AI like what I'm eating today or where is this hotel or whatever, okay? Try to use it only when it really has something. Why? Because of the huge level of the energy consumption, of the e-waste, which is the result. We use huge data centers and they are creating at such a rapid pace that I'm old. I've been growing with the web. So I started doing programming without internet initially. And then I started working with internet and web when they started, when they appeared and they become, and also Web 2.0 and Facebook. I was up of the first 10,000 people which had a Facebook account and so on. So I've been growing with the technology and I've seen it. But what I can see in the last 2 years, in the terms of how many energy solutions and how many computers and servers we need for this, is something which I couldn't believe that I will see it in my lifetime, to be honest. But this is happening, and this is started worrying me, because if it continues at this same pace, what we are going to do? So what you can do, obviously, develop green AI, a more conscious way of doing it, and using renewable energies and having sustainable practice. This is the minimum thing which you can do. The same thing which we used to teach to everybody. When you wash your teeth, close the tap. That's 1-2 minutes of wasted water. That's what we learn at kindergarten, more or less, nowadays. Even when I was a kid, that's something which I will teach you. Don't use it for anything which crosses your mind. Use it only when it's needed, when that data is valuable, and so on. And there are a lot of studies which shows how much is used. You will not believe it. Okay. So some of the risks for AI in education, more or less, it's obviously the algorithmic, the biases, the privacy, the ethics, the huge number of cheating. The cheating has increased so much, even in research publication. As a journal editor, is one of the things which worries me constantly. The first thing when I see an author, especially a new author, like a PhD student, is how much of that is cheated and how much of that has been coming from different sources, and they don't acknowledge and they don't even aware of that. So it's becoming a huge problem, and that's something which we still don't have a solution for it. It's just educating people to be honest and transparent. That's the only way forward. At least that's what I believe. And obviously the huge levels of costs and the digital divide. You don't have access to everything here. To some of the things which I checked yesterday, you cannot have access from a Kazakhstan IP address. You need to use a VPN to connect to another country address to have access to some of it. So need to be transparent, mentioned all the time how and where AI was used. That's one of the major things. And the other one is try to prioritize as much as possible integrity. Be responsible with what you're doing, how you are asking the prompts, what feedback you give to the machines, and where you're using that results, and how you acknowledge with transparency that you've been using AI. And it's the only way how we can really make it a survival thing. And I want just, because I have had several things with okay, it's here. So one of the things which we quite done quite a lot, I'm sorry, I thought it's a bit further down, is this safe AI thing. And we are now in the process of building up a project which will take probably a year in EU to build up a huge database with safe AI tools for education. So where you have obviously a lot of them which are being okay to be used in assessment or not, and how. And this is coming from Australia. The Australian university have gone together and they built up this safe AI for assignments, so for assessment and evaluation in education, and where you can use it. And a lot of tools have been assessed like that. So they have a collection of about 50 tools at this moment, which have been evaluated, and you can find from there which tools you can use for teaching and so on. And I think I will go to this one. This is my final slide, is that you need to start teaching with AI. So there are a lot of study cases and use cases which are speaking about personalized learning, about avatars, about power solutions and simulation, and then intelligent tutoring systems and virtual labs and adaptive learning platforms, which is Eunice probably will speak about, language supports and project development, a lot in coding. We teach students how to code with AI now. We really teach them, not at the beginning, because we always say you need to know first the code and then you start using. Only experts can use AI in coding or in anything because they can understand the mistakes and evaluate the errors after that. And what it's quite, well, I showed yesterday the statistic coming from OpenAI. It's becoming a tutor buddy, because it's everybody's going and asking questions on, assist me with this, summarize this text, do this. So it's like your second brain or your best assistant sometimes. Okay, so let's see if we have questions, and everybody will have chocolates at the end. So yes, please.
Dr. Diana Maria, first of all, I would like to thank you for your very much contentful presentation, both yesterday's and today. Yes, we know that while AI is very helpful in terms of processing big data and taking informed decisions, it has also its certain risks and concerns regarding the ethical issues, data privacy, maybe decreasing the students' critical thinking when they rely too much on using this AI. So yesterday you spoke about some regulations, and I have a question whether there are any best practices in Romania or maybe any other European country in terms of maybe like in a separate institution or in a city, a state, province, or on a country level, where there is a regulation of how to use
Yeah.
in a
EU,
best way this
yeah.
AI
In
terms of
EU, AI is regulated. We have the EU AI Act, which is public. And if you go on, that's another page, you will have presentations made by me with links and a lot of examples from different universities, from EU, from America, from around the world, with direct links to their regulations and how those were built, and also the guidelines, because regulation will never come after only with guidelines and training. So any responsible integration of regulations will need to come with both of them. So it's a more longer process, a more strategic approach to regulation, but they exist, and then there are a lot of them, and please use them as a starting point if you don't have an AI regulation. But and go there, they are free. You can find loads of information from there.
Okay,
Yes.
questions?
we are very late. I don't know what we are going to do because we still have to.
Hello, everyone. I'm really on top of the world to meet you actually. So let me introduce myself. My name is Kamshat. I'm a PhD at the Department of Computer Science. So I apologize. I'm a little bit after the lecture from another building. So first of all, I'm my best regards for vibrant cities, for respectable guests for our universities. And at the same time, I'm very happy to meet our other faculty staff. So I have recently just arrived from United States of America from the scientific research, and exactly for Just Right, we have discussed similar questions using a database and AI system for the education. So I mean, I have already firmly convinced that we have already discussed many meaningful issues. So I'm particularly interested in the, using a specific maybe approach. How do you say maybe what kind of specific approach, or maybe I mean certain kinds of synergizing system maybe, or are there meaningful instructing approaches for using IAJ system for students do you prefer or do you offer for our country? Because in comparison, for instance, in American, for United States, there are so many multicultural environments. There have different religions, different ethical issues. So how about these issues? And there are any difficulties or implications or maybe specific approach exactly in this reason? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that question. So basically, because I just don't know. But yesterday we had Yusuf, I think, yeah, who presented a lot of things. And you have people here in Kazakhstan which are working on LLMs built for Kazakhstan. We had people which presented sign language with AI, big for Kazakh language, and a lot of people. So I really I can't say how you can use it in Kazakhstan national environment. I can only bring the EU experience in this one. But there are a lot, I can tell you, there are a lot. And also Younes will speak about some implications which are done with the Kazakh government here for the schools. But agentic, how to build up, if I understood right, how to build up agentic AIs with your students in information science, students especially, is something which we also teach. So it's becoming like a more or less compulsory part of the degree on teaching students how to build up agentic AI. So which are using existing tools. This is what it means, agentic AI, and adapting them to your needs. But it's something which we just teach. And I can't give you examples from Kazakhstan. I'm so sorry. But I would strongly recommend you to teach them about that. That's the only thing which I can do. Yeah, we teach them, we have regulations, we have also national language. EU has funded a huge tool which is for Baltic countries' languages. So all the Baltic countries, languages have been introduced into this tool, and it's dedicated for them, funded by EU. So there are also for Romanian language, we are a Latin language, so it's very close to Italian, French, and so on, and Spanish. So it's much more easier to work around. But this is where my knowledge is limited with what you are doing here and so on. But I can say this: teach how to do this with agentic AI and work with. You are a huge country with a lot of very clever people and with a lot of resources, with huge powers. I mean, I was impressed by Yusuf, how much they built up a full LLMs on Kazakh language and so on. It's something which, for example, in Romania, we don't have. And you have here, so. And let's give the floor to Younes. He's more expert on this than me.
Thank you, Professor Diana.
Hello. I'm Younes Bensouda Mori. So I'm adjunct lecturer of computer science at Stanford, and have been working on AI for the past 10 years, specifically AI in education and its government levels. So today I'll talk a little bit about implementing AI from an operational perspective, whether it is in governments or in universities or schools. So yes, I'm going to share. Excellent. All right. So this is like a map of Kazakhstan. You could see different types of marks like red, green, orange, and this allows you to quickly know where the problems are by doing analytics at a country government level. So this is something that's implemented actually in the US. This is the state of California. And it gives you school performance across different districts. You can ask it, how can I help you today? You can ask it to give you a bar chart of all the students at risk in different districts by elementary, middle, high school. It does it for you. You can ask it to give you a personalized report template, send it to the students at risk. It gives you an example of a report template with the graphs, everything needed, areas for improvement, action plan, recommendations, conclusion. And then you can just tell it draft individual reports for each student, send it to them, CC their teachers, parents, schedule a meeting between the parents and the students. And it does everything automatically. You could see here generated 12,000 reports, email sent, Google Calendar invite scheduled in 3 seconds, right? So imagine how much time it would have taken you to do such work. And even if you had done it, would you have been able to standardize it so that it's fair for everyone, right? So this is an example of agentic AI operating at a government level, whether it is at a state level or within ministries of education. You can also have this type of chatbots asking it questions like, where are dropout rates highest? How many chairs should I order for the next academic year, right? So of course, it all comes down to the data sets that you have. But do you think that ministries of education or even admins in educational institutions, how quickly could they answer such questions today? How many of you think they could answer these questions right away? Right. It's pretty hard to get these answers. And this is one of the cool things of agentic AI or AI in general. Now, the reality today, if you just want to know how many people did not attend, college today in a specific university or in a specific school, you have several steps that you have to go through. In this example, you have 8 steps, right? So why do people struggle with getting these answers? One is that there's scattered or no data across systems. There requires manual queries via IT teams. I can guarantee you that even within an institution, if you want to get some information, it's going to take you at least a couple of days. You have to go ask the SQL, data team. Runs the SQL query. Is it accurate? Is it reliable? And then you get the answer back. Also, no real-time dashboards, and then no direct way to act even once you have this information. So this is an example of just asking the question and getting the answer. And there is one of the biggest problems is that also you couldn't keep asking so many questions all the time, right? So I can't keep going like, oh, is this freshman or sophomore in college at risk, right? So do I need to do it every day? So here it tells you that you shouldn't have to ask. The AI model should just understand who is at risk and then automatically flag them. So this is an example of a smart alert system that's implemented in other countries, but that will be implemented in Kazakhstan very shortly. So here you could select the regions, the target groups, you could schedule the alerts, and then you'll automatically get triggers, whether it's attendance, whether it's performance, whether it's people at risk, and then you could notify their parents, etc. Right? So this will be hopefully operational sometime end of this year. within Kazakhstan. This is crisis detection. So you could also measure use AI to measure the impact of such messages, and they'll be drafted also with AI. So the other thing you could use also AI for is not only to identify the alerts, but also to follow through. Because if you know someone did not attend university or is not performing well, you need to quickly reach the stakeholders. But the other thing you could use AI for is what do you actually tell these stakeholders, right? Do you tell them, you need to give them recommendations on what they need to do. So as you could see, everything is fully automated. So what's the first step? Usually is a data collection campaign, which you also use AI for, to draft smart messages targeting the right stakeholders, whether it is university professors who are not inputting specific types of data, whether it is university presidents, whether it is school principals, teachers, regional directors, or ministry admins, and then sending them targeted messages to start inputting this data that is actually needed to operate such systems. And you can send them even via WhatsApp. And then you have escalation workflows. For example, this is a missing data use case, how you're targeting like the teacher or university president or regional director. And then you can have teachers notified, school directors notified, regional directors notified, with different AI messaging systems going through. This is also evidence of impact. So you could see exactly the ROI on sending a message and how that translates in your academic institution. So this is the first part. Do you have any questions before I can jump into the other parts of implementing AI?
My name is Laura. I'm teaching at the Translation Studies in Foreign Languages. So at first, it's very great honor to take a participation in this international workshop devoting for inclusion with AI. So with your permission, one question we would like to ask, what kind of keys and comprehensions should teacher develop to integrate AI effectively? Thank you.
Yeah. So it depends at what level they want to implement AI, but many of these tools are kind of off the shelf. You could just go into ChatGPT and use it, or it's also done in a way where you just get notifications automatically on your WhatsApp on what needs to be done. And then using these AI systems, it's usually just a few clicks. You don't need to build any AI agents on the back end. You don't need to code anything. There's lots of vibe coding these days, even if you want to build something entirely from scratch. It does require, of course, a lot of deployments and all of things, but at least it can give you an idea of a prototype of things you could do. But yeah, I think in general, there's a lot of things, as Diana spoke about, that you could just use right away. Any other questions on AI analytics? I could continue.
We have questions.
Okay.
Come in.
Excuse, in the continuation, do you have any maybe analytic systems which can show the improving or increasing using artificial intelligence in education system for improving expected outcomes for students with a specific kind of disabilities?
So we measure analytics here on the impact of messaging that's has been sent. It caters to all types of people, whether they have disabilities or not. But normally we have seen quite a bit of improvements just by using these systems. For example, on dropouts, once you send messages, you see how many people, for example, enrolled, right? So that's just one example use case. But specifically for disabilities, the way I see it is when you implement personalized or adaptive learning, you cater for everyone. So even if someone is very slow to learn, or they require speech recognition, or I don't know, like any type of AI tools. The whole point of those tools is just to bring everyone up to the same level, right? So teachers will assign homework by learning objective. And then it doesn't matter, everyone will go at their own pace with their own learning preferences and styles, whether it's audio, whether it's just by looking at graphs or images. So and that will the categories of people with disabilities will fall under one of those categories.
Thank you, Professor.
Do we have time, or should we?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll show you something. Instead of talking about personalized learning, I'll show you something that I think is currently state of the art. This is an example of I think a Kazakh or Russian textbook.
Kazakh textbook.
Kazakh, okay, good. So one of the biggest problems of personalized adaptive learning is they're not catered to the curriculum. And one of the first things that we usually do is we would ingest the books, and then you could see how they're currently being parsed, allowing you to exactly extract all of the problems, examples, tables, etc. in a way that would allow you to do the personalized and adaptive learning. Once you do this textbook, custom-made system, it allows you to build a knowledge graph. This is a knowledge graph for another low resource language, Arabic, where this is an example of a book. You click on a chapter, you see all of the chapters. You click on a lesson, you see all of the learning goals. You click on a learning goal, you see all of the sub-learning goals. And then when you click on this sub-learning goal, you see the examples, the lessons, the problems, the videos, and the widgets. And this acts as a foundation to the adaptive personalized learning systems that you would see here. For example, you enter whatever is extracted automatically goes to the personalized learning. So here, for example, I don't know, we could look at chemistry, and then you see the book, you see the structure of your book, you could click on one of them, and then you will automatically start learning. All of these answers are actually coming from the book itself. And if you keep going, it will adapt. And the cool parts of all of this, so of course, there are lots of problems and books that are parsed here. For example, if you were to look at math, you can see different components. You can arrange from smallest to greatest, submit a sequence, etc. And then this will keep getting harder or easier based off your answers, right? The cool part is in actually the performance metrics. Is you see, for example, this is chemistry sunburst chart, and when you click on it, you see all of the misconceptions for yourself, or you could also use it for adaptive teaching, where the teacher walks into the lecture knowing exactly the performance of the students from yesterday's submissions, right? And that allows them to create the lesson plans in a very granular way, right? To target that. And here you see this from 0 to 1, green is good. And then you have like chapters, below the chapters, you have the lessons. You click on one of them, and then you could see exactly how you're performing, or from the teacher side, how the student is performing, right? This is, for example, the teacher. You have the book that's automatically parsed. You could generate learning paths, or you could use AI to automatically generate them. And then from there, you could just save and use, preview the path, and then just assign it. And you saw how quick it was to automatically assign homework by learning objective. So this is in a nutshell. Of course, this is the lesson generator that's also based on the submissions from the student side. So there's a lot of things that could be done using AI. But this is in a nutshell the student, the teacher side, the admin side, the ministry side in using AI for education. Any questions?
example, most of the schools do not allow the students to use the smartphones or laptops or any other gadgets. So do the students need electronic devices to use this artificial intelligence, or just the electronic desk would be enough?
Yeah, just a desktop or
Yeah.
an app that's they could download on their phones for extra practice.
My second question is, how can we use artificial intelligence for students with like autism spectrum disorders or psycho-speech development delays?
Speech recognition is a very interesting problem because one of the biggest issues with speech recognition is that the AI models automatically do the corrections for you. And we faced several challenges when implementing speech recognition, especially for the Arabic language, but I assume is going to be the same for the Kazakh language because it's a low resource language. So in terms of targeting those people who need help, for example, as you mentioned with speech, delays or so, I think it does require automatic data like collection and labeling, and there is an entire infrastructure or platform in the backend. If I were to show you, let me here. So here there is actually a labeling component for the book, but I think the same one should be used. So this is just an example. This is a dummy example, but we need to have more platforms that allow you to do automatic labeling. So here, this is an example of a bounding box that allows you to fix the OCR, parsing. But for speech recognition, we were working for the Arabic language on similar platforms to bring up the technology to help and assist these people. Yeah.
Thank you. Can I ask one more quick question? Which AI models is being used behind this platform?
It varies. It depends on the country. So, for example, for Saudi Arabia, they have their own model, which we used or are using also. We also augment it with other open source models. We do fine tuning. For example, for textbook ingestion, you would label the first lesson, first chapter, and then fine tune the model to automatically parse the rest of the book. So there is like reinforcement learning with human feedback, and then we would use that to improve these systems. For OCR, again, the same thing. So it just really varies. For Morocco, they allowed us to use whatever we want. For the US, we use it changes from Gemini to Llama to either one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. The question is that, is this publicly available or is it local to your community?
Thank you, Mr. Omar. So we have a guest from Suleiman Demirel University. He's also a specialist in AI. So
yeah, it's available. It does require a little bit of setup for the university or the school or the government, just to make sure that there are humans in the loop when parsing the books. So usually there are subject matter experts to customize for them, but it usually takes a week or two to get it up.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. I introduce me. My name is Nazarke. I'm a chemistry teacher. And I have a question. AI is so beneficial, useful. And my question, what are some challenges of using AI in inclusive education?
Yeah, so a very good question. I think the biggest challenge is one, getting the right data sets. I don't know if you agree with me. So getting the right data sets in place, and then building the right systems to allow you to collect those data sets and do automatic labeling or semi-supervised learning or some reinforcement learning with human feedback or humans in the loop. So I think those are probably the challenges, but also it does require customizing this infrastructure for those specific use cases and needs. So I think that's currently the biggest challenge.
So it's getting hot and moderatable. Can we have one more question?
Yeah, please go for it.
Yes, it's so very thought-provoking discussion. So I want to clarify, do you have any bright example or practice when AI system using in education system exactly regarding inclusive education was designed, was created exactly by human or personality with disabilities? Because to my mind and to mind from of foreigner colleagues, it maybe would be more comprehensive, not just through data-driven system, when especially where the AI system was created by the human with disabilities, they have similar approaches and more knowledge about the using exactly in this case.
If I understood the question, what is there some platform that was built and designed by keeping like people with disabilities in mind? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know.
Okay.
Not necessarily by programmers, so nobody, not even him, which is a higher level programmer than myself and so on, is not doing something for the sake of programming. He's doing it to be used by humans and by people. It's just everybody's main purpose is to improve people's life. His main purpose was to improve the administrative. How many of you as a teacher or even as a student, you lose between 30% to 50% of your time doing administrative things, which I will be the first one to say, I don't want to use them. I consider them the hugest burden in the education sector, not only in the academic, in the education sector. So any tool which will help us with that and be sure that it's correct and fair, I'm game. I will use it. But this means if it's for sure good and correct, and that's something which we need to improve with explainable AI, with transparency and so on. But with inclusive education, honestly, outside of the examples which I've seen also yesterday in Kazakh, I'm not very much aware of that. It's my pitfall, and I will try to look into more on this. But I've never seen something which was designed. But yesterday we saw platforms, not necessarily platforms, more agentic things, so more applications, which are in fact designed for inclusivity and social dimension. But let's move to another people who speaks also about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Please, our next speaker is Professor Peter. Please.
Thank you. May I ask for my presentation?
Yes, of
as
course.
I sent to the committee before. Thank you. Before that, we'll switch to this another screen. Let me introduce myself a little bit. As for 7 years, I am working at the pedagogical faculty of thank you, of Palacký University in Olomouc, Czechia, and teaching programming and algorithmization at the introductory years of bachelor study. Before that, I did the same job for 30 years at the Technical University of Ostrava, teaching future software engineers. My co-author of this short notice is Lukáš Tomášek. He is actually my doctoral student and friend, and he is an engineer from the Technical University of Ostrava. Therefore, our lecture is more technically oriented, and it's actually a proof of concept. So not a huge global solution as we heard before from my colleagues, but just a single particular problem we are doing as a proof of concept, and we are focusing on kids or children with dyslexia, and we are using large language model to handle with that. So I will wait for slide, but from this point of view,
1 minute. We are.
yeah,
1 minute.
sure. From my point of view, the main advantage of AI is that it never gets beyond or exhaust, as a teacher might be. So AI could help us 724 base or on 724 base, and I see that my presentation is there. So excellent. So that's the introduction of me. My name is Petr Šaloun in Czech pronunciation, and the name Lukáš Tomášek is more complex because Lukáš is Czech name, but Tomášek is more Polish name. So that's some mix of the border influence of our country and Poland. Well, our motivation is to help to kids with dyslexia and with problems with reading or with pronunciation. So we, as a proof of concept, we simply implement this piece of code, which is extremely easy to follow, and you can see that there is a few switches or a few choices to switch. So there is either large, middle, or small model. That means large language model. You have to choose, and there is, that's the main topic, the library which is available for Python programming language to work with these models. That models allow different granularity down to the individual words in the case of large model, or it's working on the paragraph level in the small model or smallest model which you can use. It depends on your device. If you are using CUDA or GPU, at how huge amount of memory your computer is equipped, and such technical details. So for us, we use GPU with a word level of granularity. So the output of the code is exactly when the word has, or its pronunciation started, when it ended, and the actual recognized word. That should be used for the further analysis and other purposes. So the output, it's a little bit small, but there are two pictures. One of them is evaluated by a teacher immediately as he heard the speech of the student, and red words or with red background are marked by the teacher, and they are really mistakes. Blue ones are false positive words, which are not mistakes, but as the teacher hear it once only, he could do mistake as well. On the right-hand side, the correct evaluation was done by three other people, and they hear it many times because the kid could be sometimes or his pronunciation is sometimes not excellent. So that's necessary some words to be recognized more than once. And that's the other side of the picture. From the general point of view, Czech language is very, from this point of view, is very easy to recognize because A is all the times A. In my language, B is B and so on, not like in English, depending on the context or such problems which we didn't solve in Czech language. For the purposes of recognition, we didn't swap, or we swap lowercase to uppercase, and we avoid some small particular differences between pronunciation of some accents, which has the same meaning in at all, and it's almost of the same pronunciation. So well, that's are the typical mistake and pronunciations particularly focused or connected with our language. But as I told before, it's easy to avoid them, and some preprocessing of the text with applying of AI is also possible. The the result of this proof of concept is that teacher performed the same as AI, and this proof of concept was done only on one particular student or kid. Actually, we have much more promising entry preprocessing of 30 more students, which we recognize. We have 3 groups of them, so that means 10 kids in each age level. So they are 3 different groups because kids have different pronunciation if they are in the 3rd class, 5th class, or 7th class in the grammar school. And the results are very promising, and it seems that AI performs the same as the teacher and sometimes even better. So we can also, or well, I was talking a little bit about mispronounced words, something like problems with kids, like mumbling or uncertainly pronounced words and so on. And that's a huge pictures of the previous ones. And there are some future possibilities because well, till now we have done the analysis manually, but we took the AI text and manually check it in. But we wish to automate it and in the future make it real time, which is very promising, and the AI will correct the student immediately. Of course, we are focused on Czech language again. So for Kazakh, we have to, in the future, perhaps test a particular LLM model and text recognition for the best understanding of Kazakh language or Russian, if that will be asked for the future, as we are preparing some some project for Department of Informatics here. And there are some, yeah, there is the possibility to merge the speech recognition with eye tracking to follow which word is actually read, its beginning or its end, and in real time to compare the eye tracking technology with speech recognition and point the word which is or was misspelled in a real time, which could be very useful for the kid if he or she will do it as a part of his own homework at home, because it's not necessary to do it in the classroom, but at home when he or she will practice his reading or pronunciation or something like that. So that's the end. It's a very simple task, but it works, and we are focused on a particular problem of disabled kids with dyslexia. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Peter. Thank you so much. Okay, dear participants, we have another speaker who is joining us online from Süleyman Demirel University, Professor Omar Adam. Professor Omar, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, you are online, and the next speaker is you. Please take initiative.
Thank you so much. Hopefully I can share my screen. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Not actually.
Okay, let me try again. What about now?
Oh, yeah, yes, we can see.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Umar Adam Ibrahim, and I'm joining from Süleyman Demirel University, that's SDU University Almaty in Kazakhstan. So I'll be talking about AI for inclusive education and a scalable model for the Kavik region. This very particular presentation, we take the following particular shape, starting with the opening vision, AI foundations, scalable model, evidence and ethics, action forward, and then finally the call to action, which is the last thing we're going to see. So financing artificial intelligence in inclusive education with the advent of AI, it has addressed or it has created so much amount of transformative potential in this very particular space, which has to do with enhancing inclusive education, particularly for people with disability, right? The increased integration of this very particular technology in education seeks to break down barriers that used to be there before now. And it's all about ensuring that all learners, regardless of their background, have equitable access to quality education. And this topic is notable for its relevance in addressing contemporary educational challenges, especially in underfunded and rural school within Central Asia region economic cooperation. And the entire discussion is going to center around this very particular discussion. So unlocking inclusive futures, the promise of AI. Artificial intelligence holds the promise of changing education by providing equitable access to high quality learning experience for all students, including those with disability. Well, with every advantage, there are always disadvantages, which is going to be part of the discussion we're going to look at. And for the Carrick region, it's leveraging AI is crucial to bridge the gap and ensure inclusive education from learners. And it was quite interesting to see there are people working at building large language model for Kazakh, which largely is a major challenge all across the world. I'm coming from under-resourced language, which aligned with my PhD work, which was building a speech recognition for Hausa language, which is an under-resourced language, like Kazakh and other languages outside English. So the challenge is the availability of data set. Most of the data set are analog. The goal is now transforming this analog data set into a digital format, which is time consuming and very expensive. So for a scalable innovation, the goal is to look at how can we create a scalable innovation for people with disability, and most especially within an underfunded or under-resourced environment. So AI can enhance inclusive education, addressing infrastructure, training, and collaborative environment. So we have to look at the infrastructure, which is very important, the training aspect, which is training the teacher, and the collaborative environment. And we're going to discuss this in the subsequent slide. So for the current education landscape, the current gaps has to do with policy environment. Yeah, the implementation is possible, the development is possible, but when the policy is missing, it's kind of difficult to have the expected impact we're looking for. So there's a need to close the following gaps, which has to do with infrastructure. How connected are all the cities are? It's very important. Internet penetration. Do we have 95 or 98% internet penetration to each and every region or to each and every school? So infrastructure deficit is an issue. The varying policy environment also impart inclusive education, meaning there is a need for a robust, inclusive policy that will support each and every school and each and every individual. Why AI? AI emerges as a strategic solution to address these challenges, offering personalized learning experience and removing barriers for students with disability. So there's a question around this very particular area asking, oh, as people build this application, do they involve people with disability? I think it's a huge gap. So for most of the startup, the goal is the development and shipping this to market. But I think it's part of what we'll be addressing, which is stakeholders identification, involving people with disability and also involving teachers that teach people with disability is a core principle in this very particular aspect, which is going to be part of what we'll be seeing in the subsequent slide. Next, AI foundations. AI in education today, there are global application, right? AI application in education ranges from adaptive learning platform to speech to text, real-time translation, predictive analytics, and assertive robotics. But the core challenge in this very particular space is the data set used in training this very particular model. Most of the times, these data sets are Western related data set that undermine or that underrate other environment that don't really have huge amount of digital data set on the internet. The next is personalized learning, where you have apps that make a recommendation based on the student learning, meaning you move to the next level or you pick the next topic depending on your strength and your weakness. That has to do with you interacting with this very particular app. Next is the teacher support, where you have application that allow teacher or that support teacher in doing the heavy lifting, most especially for repetitive and administrative tasks that are time consuming, like curriculum development, content report, or reporting back to the management. These are tasks that take huge amount of teachers' time. And you have application that support teacher in this very particular regard so that teachers will focus more on the primary responsibility, which is imparting knowledge in this very particular student. And the other aspect, which is removing barriers. AI helps remove barrier for students with disability by offering accessible content and tools that enhance their learning experience. That is the projection, that is the expectation. In the other hand, again, you have other challenges where others are saying there's a huge, well, AI might create a big digital divide. What happened to students with no access to internet? What happened to students with no access to digital devices? All right, this is something that needs to be put a factor in as we build our application. The benefit versus the risks. Balancing the benefit and the risks is super important. It's something we just have to work together to see how do we balance this very particular benefit and the risks that come with integrating AI in education. And this has to do with what? Improving engagement and accessibility, and also poses risks like algorithm bias, which the previous speakers have talked more about this, and data privacy breaches, and then widening digital divide. So as much as possible, we have to create a balance between the advantage and the disadvantage in this very particular step. And the key process to achieve this is bringing in stakeholders in play. Scalable model. The next is how do we achieve a scalable model? Based on the entire research I've done, I've come up with a 3-pillar framework. The first one is what? Integrating model. That is proposed model integrate 3 key pillars: resilient digital infrastructure, continuous teachers professional development, and collaborative learning. The teacher's professional development is super important. Why? Because the teacher basically are the primary contact with this very particular student. Yeah, it's a known fact that the current generation play more with these very particular devices and technology way better compared to the older generation. So that means there's a need for a continuous training, professional development for teachers all across our board. Next is ethical governance. There is a need for a framework that is going to support the ethical governance to ensure that AI implementation is fair, transparent, and respect the right and privacy of all learners. And the third is context-sensitive approach. The model should be designed to be context-sensitive, adapting to the unique need and challenges of the current region. It's super important. We can use the what do you call it the exist well we can use the existing model but adapt it to the content which is sensitive to this very particular region. And I'm a big fan of creating, have more people create based on the environment, based on the culture, based on the tradition, and based on the belief of that very particular region. So that is need for us to have more creators from this very particular region. Next is the teacher empowerment, which is divided into 4. The first is competence-based training. First, by understanding the competence-based, there's a work we're doing in my, there is a STEM research center at SDU under the School of Education and Humanity. It's understanding the AI competence of the teachers in Kazakhstan, most especially those in secondary schools. So the goal is a competence-based training whereby teacher empowerment involves competence-based training cycles on AI literacy, universal design for learning, data ethics, and inclusive pedagogy. The next is what? Continuous development is not a one-time journey. It's something that needs to continue. So continuous professional development ensures teachers stay updated with the latest AI advancement and can effectively integrate them into their teaching practice. Then communities of practice. You have a set of people that stand as a guide rail for a particular institution. What they do is supporting teachers through community of practice and micro-credential foster collaboration and continuous learning. These are kind of like a group of people that their focus is, okay, what is the latest technology? What is the recent technology? How do we adapt this to whatever we're doing in our institution? And lastly, empowering educators, right? Better equipped to leverage AI to create inclusive, high quality learning environment for all students. Most especially for teachers that work with disabled people, there is a need for this very particular empowerment. The fourth aspect of this very particular presentation is evidence and ethics, which is very, very important. The global case lesson, synthesizing pilot cases. There are some few pilot studies that happens in different area. I think the core is the LEAF, which is the NEAF system for autism support. AI captioning in Mongolia and Uzbek language assistance demonstrate a measurable gain in engaging literacy and social inclusion. Like basically in terms of pilot cases, the LEAF system is one of the good system around. And institution can have a set of people that come up with a pilot case depending on the end goal of that very particular institution. For ethical safeguard, data privacy protocol is very important, proposing a regional data privacy protocol to protect student information and ensure ethical use of AI in education. Bias audit checklist, implementing a bias audit checklist to identify and mitigate potential biases in AI algorithm, promoting fairness and also inclusivity. And then lastly, student assent policy, developing a student assent policy to ensure that learners, especially those with disability, are informed and consented participate in AI-driven education. Action forward at this very particular point, policy alignment. It's super important to have a policy alignment. Cross ministry task forces where you have people working from different organizations, meaning forming a cross military task forces to align policies and ensure coordinated effort towards inclusive AI in education. A funding pool, we all know that funding is always a challenge. So advocate a current wide funding pool and public-private partnership to sustain and scale AI innovation in this very particular region. And I'm a huge fan of the public-private partnership where the public organization and private organization work together for a single benefit for humanity. Monitoring and adaptation is also important. Defining the KPIs, what do we want to achieve at what point in time? So there is need to define a key performance indicator such as access rate, learning growth, teacher confidence, equity indices to measure the impact of AI in education. Feedback loops, embedded interactive feedback loops, which disable student co-design panel to continue, refine, and adapt this very particular AI solution. Continuous improvement, right, where continuous monitoring and adaptation ensure an AI implementation remain effective and responsive to the changing educational need. And then a transparent timeline is very, very important and certain that we support whatever we're doing. Call to action, which is at this very particular point, what we need to do. Leadership commitment. There's a need to have a full leadership commitment in this very particular aspect, meaning the current inclusive AI pledge urge ministers, donors, edtech companies, and educators to sign a current inclusive AI pledge, pooling resources and sharing open data set to leave no learner behind. So the goal is just to come together, have a place that we're in this together, share resources, have an open data set, and also engage the learners. Had a crazy assumption, which is in the next 90 days, what can the institution do? What can we do as an organization? It's just a rough assumption, right? Stakeholders mapping. Who are the necessary stakeholders? The government, when you talk about the policymaker, the teachers who are the center of using this application, and also the student, most especially the student with disability. So stakeholders mapping is very important. The next phase is the pilot site. Pick some selected school, pick some selected area as a pilot phase, and then see how you deploy or implement this very particular system. Next is the immediate milestone. Set an immediate milestone, including baseline data collection, teacher cohort load, and ethical review board formation with transparent timeline. For Vision 2030, which is just another random vision seen expecting teams we work out, present an aspiration roadmap where AI-enabled inclusive education becomes the norm in this very particular region, driving equitable economic and social transformation, and then lastly, envision graduate empowered by inclusive education who contribute to building resilient, equitable society across the region. So this is just a vision which the organizer of this very particular conference might decide to integrate in their final report. With this, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. We can connect on LinkedIn and you can reach out to me via this very particular email. And if there's any question, I will be here to answer them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Omar. Thank you. Yeah, what I loved from your speech is extra highlighting the role of teacher. Thank you so much. I think the key players in education is teachers and learners, because we can make an education system without ministry, without administration, but we cannot make the education system without teachers and learners. The key role players in education system is teachers and learners, and especially teachers carry a really important role in this important system. Thank you so much. So let me invite our next speaker, the last finalizing speaker of today's seminar workshop, Masimgazieva Alwa Akanovna. She is a PhD candidate at Kazakh National Women Pedagogical University from Physics, Math, and Digital Technologies Institute.
Саламатсыздар ма, құрметті әріптестер, құрметті қонақтар. Мен Қазақ ұлттық қыздар педагогикалық университетінің курс докторантымын, информатика мамандығының. Бүгін мен сіздерге инклюзивті білім беру жағдайында жасанды интеллект рахмет. Мен бүгін тақырыбым инклюзивті білім беру жағдайында жасанды интеллект мүмкіндіктерін қолданудың тиімділігімен тақырыбымен ой бөліскім келіп отыр. Яғни білесіздер, жақын арада президентіміз қазақ тілінде жүреді. Жоқ, қазақ тілінде. Мен өзім тақырыбымда, білесіздер, жақын арада президентіміз Тоқаев мырза, яғни өзінің жолдауында, мемлекет басшысы Қасым-Жомарт Кемел Тоқаев бүгін Қазақстан халқына арналған жолдауында білім беру, жасанды интеллект, ғылым және цифрлық технология дамыту мәселесіне ерекше назар аударды. Бұл құжат еліміздің жаңа даму кезеңіне қадам басқанын көрсетіп қана қоймай, әрқайсымыздың өмірімізге, әсіресе жастар мен білім саласының өкілдеріне тікелей әсер ететін стратегиялық бағыттарды айқындайды. Мектептерде, колледжде және жоғары оқу орындарында жасанды интеллект технологияларын меңгеру басты басымдардың бірі ретінде атап өтілді. Қазіргі заманда білім беру жүйесі әрбір білім алушыға тең мүмкіндік беруге бағытталуда және жеке қабілеттері дамыту бағытында дамып келеді. Оқушылардың әртүрлі типтері бар, бірақ шектеулі оқу орталығында мұғалімдер жаңа ақпарат пен тапсырмалардың бірнеше түрлерін үйретуге тырысады. Осыған орай инклюзивті білім беру ерекше білім беруді қажет ететін балалардың сапалы білім алу ресурстарына толық қатысулардың маңызды жолы ретінде қарастырылады. Инклюзивті білім беру тиімді ұйымдастыру барысында педагогикалық тәсілдермен қатар заманауи цифрлық технологиялық қолдану уақыт талабы. Әсіресе жасанды интеллект элементтерін білім беру процесінде енгізу арқылы оқуды дараландыру, қолжетімділікті арттыру және оқушы қажеттіліктерін ескеру мүмкіндігі кеңейеді. инклюзия түсінігі. Инклюзия физикалық немесе психикалық ерекшеліктеріне қарамастан барлық адамдарды қоғамда тең өмір сүруі. Жасанды интеллект құралдары қазіргі таңда білім беру процесін тиімді ұйымдастыруын қуатты құрал ретінде танылып отыр. Чат-боттар, адаптивті оқыту жүйелері, платформалар, мұғалімге оқушылардың жеке оқу траекторияларын құруға, кері байланыс беруге және оқу үдерісін даралауға мүмкіндік береді. Инклюзивті сыныптарда бұл құралдар ерекше білім беру қажет ететін оқушылар үшін оқуды жеңілдетіп, мотивациялық арттыруға көмектеседі. Сондықтан информатика пәнін оқытуда жасанды интеллект элементтерін қолдану уақыт талабына сай өзекті мәселе болып отыр. Инклюзивті ортада қолданылатын әдістемелік тәсілдер. Бірінші, дараланған, жекелендірілген оқыту тәсілі, технологиялық қолдау тәсілі, эмоционалдық және әлеуметтік қолдау тәсілі, дифференцияланған оқыту, ынтымақтастықты оқыту тәсілдері қарастырылған екен. Инклюзивті сыныптарда информатика пәнін оқытуда мұғалімдердің жасанды интеллект құралдарын қолдану тәжірибесін, көзқарастарын, қажеттіліктерін және кедергілерін анықтау мақсатында мен мектеп мұғалімдерінен, яғни информатика мұғалімдерінен сауалнама алған болатын. Қазақстанның түкпір-түкпірінен, яғни 100-ден аса мұғалімдер атсалысты, соның нәтижесін көрсеткім келеді. Яғни қатысушылардың негізгі жұмыс өтілі қарап отырғандарыңыздай 10 жылдан астам тәжірибесі бар мұғалімдерді осы жасанды интеллектпен тәжірибесі бар екенін дәлелдеп отыр. Келесте бұл сіздің инклюзивті білім беруде тәжірибеңіз бар ма? Яғни бұл дерек инклюзивті білім беру саласында мұғалімнің әдістемелік және кәсіби қолдауда мұқтаж екенін, сонымен қатар олардың бұл бағытта деген позитивті қызығушылығың жоғары екенін көрсетіп отыр. Яғни бұл диаграммада көріп отырғандарыңыздай, инклюзивті сыныпта сабағым бар. Қазіргі таңда білесіздер, Қазақстанның көп мектептерінде инклюзия сыныптары өте көптеп кездеседі. Сол кезде біздің қарап отырғанымыздай ең жоғарғы пайыз 34%-ді көрсетіп отыр. Келесі бізде сабақ барысында жасанды интеллект құралдарын қолдану қандай жағдайлар әсер етеді. Бұл мәліметтер педагогикалық жасанды интеллект технологияларын пайдалануға деген ықыласы бар екен, алайда олардың жүйелі қолданысы үшін институциялық және әдістемелік қолдау қажет екенін анықтайды. Инклюзивті білім беру контекстіне бұл факторларын ескеру, әсіресе жасанды интеллект құралдарын бейімдеу және оқыту процесінде интеграциялау кезінде шешімге ие болған екен. Мына жерде де сіздер көріп отырғандарыңызда жасанды интеллект құралдарының мүмкіндіктері қолданамын. Яғни қазіргі таңда білесіздер, әрбір пәнге осы жасанды интеллект құралдарын пайдаланып пәндерін жүргізеді. Яғни пәндерді өздерінің пәнін қызықты етіп өткізуге байланысты осы жасанды интеллект құралдарын қолданады екен. Енді мына жерде қарап отырғандарыңыздай 0,9%, яғни интернет жеткізілген. Яғни бұл ауылдың түкпір-түкпір жерлерінде кейбір жағдайларда интернет желісі жоқ болғандықтан немесе жаңағы скорость дейміз ғой, сонысы төмен болғандықтан жасанды интеллекті көбісі қолдана алмайды. Бірақ бізге жақсы көрсеткіш бұлда 0,9 деген. Келесі, инклюзивті білім беруде жасанды интеллект құралдарын өз сабағыңызда қолданасыз ба? Яғни мына жерде көріп отырғандарыңыздай 29-да 2% тұрақты түрде қолданамын деген екен. Яғни 45-те 3 кейде, 22-те 6 жоқ, бірақ қолданғым келеді, қалған пайызы жоқ, қажет деп санамаймын деген екен. Инклюзивті білім беру жағдайында жасанды интеллект құралдан қандай мақсатта қолданасыз? Яғни бір жерде қарап отырғандарыңыздай тапсырманы бейімдеу, яғни тапсырманы беру мақсатында ең жоғары пайызды көрсетіп отыр. Сабақты жоспарлау 46% көрсетіп отырған, яғни оқушылардың білім беру деңгейін бағалау, арнайы қажеттіліктер бар оқушылардың көмек беру, қолжетімді және оқу материалдарын әзірлеу деген осылай мен сұрақтардың жауаптарын берген еді. Келесі, жасанды интеллект құралдарын инклюзивті білім беру қолдану тиімді деп санайсыз ба? Қазіргі таңда көріп отырғандарыңыздай ең көп пайыз жасанды интеллект бізде құралдарын қолдану өте тиімді. Бұл кезде айтып өткен жайт мұғалімнің білесіздер өздеріңізде уақытын үнемдейді. Жасанды интеллект негізінде құралдар мен мектеп бағдарламасына енгізу керек деп ойлайсыз ба? Қазір білесіздер, адал азамат деген бағдарлама шықты, барлық мектептер енгізіліп жатыр. Өзіміздің президентіміз де жасанды интеллектті қолға алып жатыр. Яғни қазір таңда цифрлық сауаттылық орнында жасанды интеллект пәнін кірістіру негізделіп жатыр, иә. Осы сауалнаманың негізінде нәтижесін талдау келіп, мұғалімдердің инклюзивті білім беру жасанды интеллект құралдарын қолдануға деген қызығушылығы жоғары екенін көрсетеді. Сонымен қатар мұғалімдердің көпшілігі жасанды интеллекттің тиімділігін мойындай отырып, оны қолдануға дайын екенін білдіреді. Алайда олар бұл құралдарды толыққанды пайдалану үшін әдістемелік, техникалық және ұйымдастырушылық қолдаудың қажет еткенін атап өтті. Жүргізілген сауалнама нәтижесінде инклюзивті білім беру жағдайында информатика пәні мұғалімдерінің жасанды интеллект құралдарын қолдануға деген қызығушылығы жоғары екенін көрсетті. Мұғалімдердің көпшілік жасанды интеллект құралдары тиімді деп санайды және оларды қолдануға дайын. Алайда бұл процесті кеңінен енгізу үшін әдістемелік, техникалық және ұйымдастырушылық қолдау қажет. Сондай инклюзивті сыныптарда оқушылардың ерекшеліктеріне сәйкес бейімделген контент пен оқыту құралдарын енгізудің маңызы зор екенін анықтап айтқым келеді. Назарларыңызға рахмет. Сұрақтарыңыз бар болса.
Көп рахмет, Алма ханым. Okay, thank you, dear participants and speakers. So the next session is Q&A session. If anyone from audience have further questions here or deeper questions regarding your addresses, the topics that have been touched today, so please, yeah.
So, my name is Daulet. I am first year doctoral students. My question is to computer science doctors for as I know, the most important thing when we making up own artificial intelligence is data set. So how can we evaluate which data set is better, or do you know some algorithms or framework? How can we evaluate data set?
Yeah.
No, you.
Both humble professors.
So it really depends on the use case you're going after. So you would collect the data sets to know if it's a good data set. First of all, you have a model, and then you know where your model performs well and where it doesn't perform well. And then a good data set would be a data set that caters to the weaknesses of the model. So for example, if it performs well on 7 types of categories and not on 3, then when you collect a data set, you want to be targeting those 3 to address the weaknesses of your model. Does that answer the question?
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
If I can just quickly add, on the data sets, it's very difficult to clean the data sets, in my opinion, at least. One of the biggest issues which you usually have, it's how you clean it, how you adjust it to your needs and things like that, especially if you're speaking about, I don't know, thousands. Maybe you can, like for example, something which we have done in my university with some ideas which we had on students, like we got it simply in Excel files and we created some scripts and we cleaned and we used only some of it. Basically, what we cleaned was private information. So just to be sure that we delete that, especially as it was not quite well structured. But it's one of the most difficult things to do. And to use AI for that, that's something which we also considered sometimes on cleaning and on adjusting the data set to your needs. It's also not easy. So it's still a lot of technical problems here, and not only human problems, I mean ethical or something like that, but also technical limitations which we have. Or at least this is how far I know about this. I'm not really a huge specialist on this.
Hello, everybody. My name is Artajan Safarbayev. And first of all, I would like to thank you for your speech and for your insightful presentation. And as you know, we are a pedagogical university and we teach teachers, we prepare future teachers. And my question is that, in your opinion, how can we better prepare educators, especially future teachers, to effectively use AI tools in inclusive classrooms, and at the same time avoiding ethical risks? Thank you for your attention.
I will try to give you a piece of an answer, just a part of an answer. Obviously, I'm not an AI expert. However, regarding your question, how can you prepare teachers for the challenges that are waiting them in, or actually for creating an inclusive classroom, is based on a research we've done in Croatia, but I think it's applicable here as well. It's actually, we are at the right place, and this is the right time when to start doing that. It's integrating elements of about inclusion and then about AI into the initial teacher training. So during their college education, university education of future teachers, they should be made aware of, well, through the things that they do learn through their program, about what an inclusive classroom is, what inclusive education means, and then what the risks are. If we talk about AI, this can also be integrated together with equity and inclusion or separately. However, all the ethical issues and dilemmas should be discussed. So when the future teacher exits the university and enters their first classroom, that they have this consciousness that there are some good things, some benefits, but also that there are some issues that they need to take care of. And I think most importantly, future teachers should exit the university knowing that their education has not stopped, that they will have to continue learning throughout their career.
Thank you, Professor.
My name is Gulmira. I work in the Translation Studies department. And my question probably to Dr. Yunus Bensouda. There are already pretty good and many AI tools for written translation like DeepL and even Google, Gemini, etc. But are there any very good AI tools for simultaneous interpreting, for example, for conferences and seminars like today, which can be used instead of human simultaneous interpreting?
Well, I don't know off the top of my head right now, but I could look into it and get back to you. But I know that Google is also working and OpenAI working on models for on the spot translation, and they might potentially release them soon, potentially even embedded in the phones.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah.
I was trying to look now on a tool which we've been using is Wordly. I wanted to be sure it's WODLI. So which is also with I think Kazakh language, Russian. I know it has Chinese because we use it for this one, and it's doing quite good simultaneous interpretation and also recognizing the text, especially also both languages. We use this for a conference, and that's why I was looking to be correct on the names. I know it's something with words, but not exactly the name. So it's Wordly, which I tested for different tools, and it's working more or less, so you can figure out what's speaking about. I mean, it's not necessarily. In Zoom, for example, there is also the AI interpretation of Zoom, which is quite good. I mean, it's working correctly, more or less. And it's another one which is I think it's because Zoom has and Teams, so online meetings, have their own AI tools for transcript, which is something which we use a lot. And they also use interpretation. So they do first the transcript, especially if the language is English first. And then based on that transcript, they do immediate translation. And the best on doing that is Firefly, also Read AI and Firefly. So you can have notes in multiple languages from online meetings or online conferences based on that. But these ones work better if the first language is English, so the spoken language is English. Yeah, but Wordly is working at least with, I cannot say about Kazakh. I need to check if it's working for Kazakh, but I know it's working for Russian language because we had a conference where we had Ukrainians and we translated into Russian. Ukrainian was not a language, but Russian was there. So we translated into Russian because they mostly speak also Russian.
Yes.
Okay, I will try to answer this not as an expert in inclusion, but actually as a linguist and interpreter myself. As a speaker of a small language, Croatian is a small language by a number of speakers and by resources, so it is very small. My experience is that these tools are developing, but will always work better for English or other big languages, and they always work with problems for my language. So the reason is that there is not enough resources, there is not enough corpus to train the models, and there simply are not enough speakers, and we are not an interesting market, let's say, because we are so small. So in the so-called small languages that are not that popular or used by a large number of speakers, we will always be sort of behind the so-called big languages, and interpreters in person, like people, are not replaceable at this moment. Yeah.
One more question.
So could you please share a specific idea or maybe a specific approach from your own experience about how artificial intelligence system, how can AI system shift this focus from a helping system to truly empowerment of each learner? I mean, what happened if artificial intelligence can detect not only learning difficulties, but also simultaneously maybe to find and extract meaningful sides, maybe inner strengths or inner gifted, talented of each learners?
Okay, if we are talking about gifted learners, we have also marked them as a vulnerable group, because gifted learners are outliers. As you have in a group of learners, you have those with difficulties that need extra support. Gifted learners also need extra support. They need a different kind of approach. In a regular classroom, both groups on both ends will be outside of the average, and it will require additional effort from the teacher to work with them. So unfortunately, and I'm speaking, research has been done in Croatia, so a small country, small sample, but representative. Those that are outside of the average are usually the ones that are sort of forgotten or a bit neglected, and they are the ones who need extra attention. Gifted children really do need extra attention, and they are not getting it because all the resources and all the attention is usually focused on the ones who need an extra push and not on the ones who need more. So basically, in that context, we can consider gifted learners to be vulnerable.
Thank you, Professor. Any questions?
Hello, my name is Maldar. I am a second year doctoral student, and I have a question about the inclusivity in the classroom. There are also some students here with different disabilities in the classrooms. And as a teacher, I have some problems with evaluating them. I know that these students do their best, yeah, as a teacher, but the problem is, so I have to support them and not to offend other students in the classroom, yeah, because usually the performance, yeah, the performance of the disabled students, yeah, are not as high as the ordinary students. So how should I act?
This should be addressed by, in my opinion, policies on the system level. So you should not be the one responsible for that, but there should be a framework in place that will give you the tools to address such a situation in your classroom. So it should not be only your responsibility, but you should be given the tools by the system and by your by the institution that you work in. By creating an inclusive environment, all the learners or all the other children and or other learners in the group should be aware that those learners that have special needs are doing their best, and that they should not and cannot be measured with the same scale as they are. So basically the solution for such learners is to have an individualized approach. So not to compare them to the average or to the group, but to track their progress and to actually measure their progress by what they can do. They can they need to have an environment where they can achieve their full potential, but their full potential and the full potential of a healthy and able student are not the same, and they should not be compared. That would be the idea, the principle. You cannot do that alone. You need to you should have a framework, different criteria, and support by other professionals, such as psychologists, development psychologists, or other specialists that or you can work with in a team. So this is why I'm saying the system should be inclusive, because you as a teacher should have support. So it's not only about an inclusive institution does not only provide support for the learner, but also for the teacher, because it can be extremely difficult for the teacher to balance the different needs of different learners. It can lead to burnout. It can lead to conflict. So the teacher needs to have also additional support to be able to handle this situation in the classroom. So there should be a team of professional people like speech therapists or development psychologists or other professionals that are necessary to provide you with the support that you need so that you can support the students.
Thank you so much, Professor. Okay, participants, do you have any questions? No? So I have one question for tech-savvy speakers. So as you said, Professor Yunus, that you are your system, your platform is collecting data, analyzing data, and providing some feedback. And all of these tasks are done by AI, right? AI technologies. And have you some approach, or do you employ some strategies to validate or to measure the validity and reliability of that data? How do you ensure that?
So there are two kind of technologies that just emerged. One of them is like 2 or 3 years old, maybe. It's a reinforcement learning with human feedback, where you train the model to incorporate the feedback that the human gives it. So they would give it rankings, and then the model will adapt to that and learn how to adjust. And then there's another one that's also just recently came out. It's reinforcement learning with human feedback, but they added verified rewards. And what that does in place, it allows for verification systems, or you could have human verify, like software that verifies scripts. And what this entails, that you would generate like unlimited problems, for example, in math or physics or chemistry or so. And then you could even have like some scripts that would solve that problem. And if that problem is solved, it means that it's 100% accurate, right? For example, you generate a math problem, but then you generate a script that knows how to solve that math problem. If the script compiles, it means that you're 100% sure that the generated data is correct, right? And you could build similar systems and incorporate them into one overall architecture to make sure that when you do synthetic data generation, it's actually verified.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, any questions or comments? Reflections
Can I have a
regarding?
question for
Yeah, of course.
So you can raise hands, but you can also answer separately or something like that. I'm just very, very curious. So have you been incorporating in your teaching? So this is also for professors, but also for students as your experience. Any method or things like that which looks at AI? Not necessarily for inclusion, but generally on how not to develop tools, but to incorporate it on students or teaching by using AI. Yes, please. Yeah. So first raise your hands and then you can answer. So how many of you have experienced not as a teacher or as a student, full incorporation of a method of using AI in your educational process? Oh, gosh. Yeah,
Yeah,
1, 2.
please.
Okay. So,
Please.
yeah, please.
Thank you so much for the wonderful session. I'm really thoroughly enjoying it. And so I'm working on a specific model that is using 3 different components. Number one, I'm using a predictive AI tool that like basically the theme of this, my project is about the academic integrity when we are talking about AI. So first, this is how we are measuring academic integrity using number one at very primary level. Tool predict if a student behavior is turning to use AI unethically. Number two, about the assessment, that is also one of the the component. So using AI to check the assessment. And third, I think there is very less talk about this one. We always talk about the ethics. And so ethical simulation, which I'm using in my classroom to understand and teaching them ethical AI through the simulation. So all combination. So we are targeting 3 things, as I mentioned: the prediction, start of the AI, and then second is assessment, and third is ethical AI simulation. So this is still this project is in the progress, but I think this is giving me a very the positive results. Thank you.
Do you do, we can carry on because I have somebody else also here, but I have a question for you. When you built up this, so this is something which I'm advising everybody, in fact, when you built up this, do you have like, you give the strict information to the students at the beginning on what and how they can use it? And do you do an evaluation of their experience at the end?
So this is the ongoing process. First, I give strictly instruction that I'm monitoring about their behavior and I'm accepting AI use at a certain level. And this I consider that this is the ethical, because as you mentioned before, we can't run away from the AI. It's so much in our life that we can't go away. But at the same time, we should set some limits that this is my certain level, and I feel this is the still in terms of range of academic integrity. So I give instructions. And the second, the behavior is very pattern. So our professor from Czech Republic, he was talking about the eye coordination. So maybe he's also mentioning that how we can, the pattern and behavior, it start using of like repetition of the word. You also showed some pictures, how we can differentiate picture from the AI. So if we start understanding the pattern and behavior of a student, using excessive AI, we can definitely stop at the first level, instead of the student is doing so much AI work during the study. And at the end also, I show them the result about the AI and without AI.
Okay. Who raised you?
I can just tell a small example. As I work with future translators, so I gave my students an opportunity to use, as they use it usually, Google Translate, DeepL Translate, to translate a text, a general text, and then a poetry, and then to compare the quality of translation, and then to make the post-editing. Yes.
Yeah, so that's a good example. What I strongly suggest, something which we created guidelines in my university, and in my presentation on Zenodo, you will find links to a lot of guidelines. Also in the European Digital Education Hub, where you can enroll, you will have information and structure, even lesson plans for different types of level of education on how to integrate correctly AI in education. This is something which I will strongly encourage you all to do, because if you are not showing and doing it in a protective environment as the education, or it's going to be very difficult for your future students, which will become professors, to replicate and to know how to do it. If you build up at national level models, quite a lot of EU countries are building up now models on how and what it is safe to integrate in education. It's fine. What I can say is that one, like the language, so identify in your topic what you're teaching, how you can use AI, or what you know that AI is used mostly by the students. Okay. And then you describe the situation at the beginning. What I would suggest is indicate one or two tools, but leave the students to find something else. And then ask them two things, which I consider vital if you really want to have a good feedback on this. One is ask them to write a small report with screen captures of what types of prompts, questions they used, and what tools. Okay? And ask them to present that together with the others. Obviously, if you have 100 students, it's a bit more difficult. But if you have a learning platform, then you can ask them to submit there, and then the others can read everybody's report. Because students don't learn only from you, they learn from the others' experiences of the students, okay? So ask them to share that, and then comment with your students how they've done it, what it was, and so on. Second, ask them to complete a standard survey. You have a lot of models on their experience. And there, 2 or 3 questions are very important. One, which I always ask my students to do, is give a mark on the quality of the work which was done by AI. Give a grade, okay? And I don't know, 1 to 10 or something like that, depending on how your grading system works. And so the student is familiar with that. That's one. And the second question, which is very valuable, is that how you will use it in the future. We've been using this for the last 2 years, 3 years, more or less. And students improve their critical thinking a lot, and they improve their ability of constantly analyze what they've done. Because what you teach, in fact, the student is to use it for a certain activity, not for, just for fun or for anything, but you define what type of activity is safe for him to use it, like translation or something like that, which everybody more or less use it, Google Translation or DeepL or whatever other tools which are all having AI now. Doesn't, even if it's simple Google Translation, will have Gemini there. So and then you ask them to critically analyze the result, and that's very, very important. So if you want my advice, and this is outside of any inclusion or something like that, is incorporate in your course, in your teaching, at least one activity where you safely use this with the students. Either is in a lab or in a seminar, or you give it to them as an activity and you ask them next week to come with a report and to present about this and to discuss, openly discuss with your colleagues and students about this, okay? And if in PhD students in research, sorry, just one, we also have methodologies. We teach this, the first year student, when they come as a PhD student, we give them a lot of courses which is almost a year long. But the first things is also plagiarism and academic writing and so on. And we introduce since 2024, in fact, in May 2024, we've done the first round, and then we do it every semester, about a week where we have a full module with 3 hours in every day. So in total will be about 8-10 hours of teaching where we do with them AI for research. Okay. There are a lot of tools which you can use or not use, but asking them to think on how to do it and evaluate them. And they need to write papers with research and then to evaluate them and to have them, because they need to understand how they can use it or not using it. Because at least in our experience, the PhD students, when they come, that's the first thing which they want, you know, to write papers with AI and not by themselves. And that's something which you need to teach what and at what level of research is safe to use AI and where it's not safe to use AI. Because they also lose their intellectual property on what they're doing. So their contribution to knowledge, which is the main thing on a PhD, for a PhD student, it's half lost. They give it to a machine and to data sets. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I think that our workshop seminar is coming to end. And I hope that the discussion was really meaningful and insightful for every one of us who are participating. We are immensely grateful to our panel speakers, to our participants. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's the end of our workshop seminar. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Steve. Yeah, what we are going to propose. Shoot. Oh, wait. Oh, атаға не аламыз? Oh.